discovered a dead baby in the bathroom.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry. It came out of me and I didn't know what to do.
Lexi, I told you about this. I just asked you, baby, to tell me the truth.
I've never seen anything like that, and I pray to God I never have to see it again.
A horrific scene inside an emergency room bathroom where a high schooler is accused of giving birth to a full-term baby, then trying to hide it. We've been following Alexee Trevizo's case for years. Now, her defense is trying to toss out some of the case's most critical evidence, what they said to New Mexico's highest court this week. We're on the case, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. The defense for the girl who allegedly tried to hide a full-term baby's body that was found dead in a hospital bathroom is trying to argue that the criminal investigation violated her medical privacy. Alexee Trevizo's defense took that argument to the New Mexico Supreme Court. Now, Trevizo went to a hospital in January of 2023 with back pain, and she ended up giving birth in an ER bathroom. But instead of calling for any of the medical professionals to come help her, prosecutors say that she put the newborn in the bathroom trash can, leaving it to be discovered minutes later by a housekeeper. The baby was dead. Prosecutors say there's evidence that the baby boy was breathing when he was born, while Trevizo insists the child was stillborn and that she hadn't known she was pregnant, so she panicked. Bernalillo County Sheriff's deputies' body-worn cameras were rolling when they arrived at the hospital in the middle of the night to a bone-chilling report.
We did a pregnancy test on her, showed positive. She was denying that she had sex. Then she said she had to go to the bathroom. She went to the bathroom. She was in there for quite a while. We kept knocking on the door. Finally, we got her to open the door, and there was blood everywhere. She was cleaning it up. Okay. So we took her back to the room, and I was afraid that she knew she was pregnant. She had done something to herself. Mm-hmm. So the doctor started doing a vaginal exam on her. We had the lady come to clean the bathroom. She put the baby in the trash can, and then she put another clean liner over the top of it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So when they looked in there, there was no trash in there, but it was underneath the clean bag. The baby's dead. Okay, we have him in trauma too, but she killed the kid.
Yeah, how old was the baby?
I don't know. It's full term. She just had it. She had it in the bathroom. Was what happened, and then whatever she did, I don't know. She's gonna lie. She wouldn't tell us she's pregnant.
Trevizo, who was 19 years old on January 27th, 2023, was initially charged with intentional abuse of a child, tampering with evidence, and murder in the first degree. Later, the criminal complaint dropped the abuse charge. We were actually able to see the charges that Trevizo is now facing when we looked her up on truthfinder.com. Truthfinder is a powerful background checker. It can show you criminal history. It has a section for that. We partner with Truthfinder here at Law&Crime to get details on the people involved in our stories. But even if you don't work in true crime, it can be an excellent resource to give you peace of mind. It is one of the largest public records search services in the United States. And with the paid subscription service, you get access to unlimited reports about almost anyone. And right now, you can get 50% off your first month of confidential background reports. Just go to truthfinder.com/OTC. Interviews deputies did with medical personnel that night, as well as interviews over the next few months, help give us insight into what happened. But Trevizo's defense team doesn't want the jury at Trevizo's murder trial to see those, including the moment the truth came out in Trevizo's hospital room. Watch this.
We discovered a dead baby in the bathroom.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry. It came out of me and I didn't know what to do.
Lexi, I told you about this. I just asked you, baby, to tell me the truth.
Scared. It was not crying or nothing.
What did you do to it?
Okay, stop right here. Stop. Number one priority, guys. Number one priority is she just had a baby. I don't know if she's delivered the placenta. She's bleeding significantly.
Like, how big is the baby?
It's full term.
What? 9 months?
Nothing was crying.
Lexi, have you watched the news of the girls that what they do to their babies and what they go to jail?
Nothing was crying.
I'm sorry about this, but in terms of delivering a baby and it looked like you tried to hide it, we do have to have the police involved.
And nothing was crying. It came out with nothing.
I know, but the baby's gonna have to be taken for autopsy and there'll be an investigator and everything.
Trevizo's mom, Rosa, went to the waiting room where the baby's father is with other family members. Now, she swears she didn't know Trevizo was pregnant and has serious concerns about what happened to her daughter next.
What's gonna happen with her, like?
So she's gonna get treatment before we even talk to her because she needs to be stabilized. So that's why she didn't let it out.
Okay.
Once she gets stabilized, we'll try and talk to her. The baby's gonna go up north for autopsy. More likely it'll be done within the next day.
Is she gonna get detained after, like, she's released? How?
Get what?
Like, are y'all gonna take her into custody or anything like that? Like,
That depends
what?
on what the DA finds. We have to wait for the autopsy to come back to see what happened. Because right now with how everything happened, we're gonna do an investigation, get more information from the OMI, Office of Medical Investigator up north. And with that, we present that to the DA, see what the DA wants to do with charges, if any at all.
You know, I didn't know. I honestly didn't know she was pregnant. I didn't know. I just thought, like she said, I had back pain while my hips are hurting me. I think I need to go to the chiropractor. I said, okay, let's go tomorrow. But she was like in really a lot of pain, and you know.
When did it start?
Like the pain?
Yes.
Yesterday she said it was really bad, that her hips were hurting and her back. And then last night we're on the phone together and she said her hips were hurting bad. And I asked her if anything else was hurting, and she said just everything. And she went to sleep.
But she's a cheerleader too, so she's big in cheers. They have cheer competition. She works out. I mean.
And she's been active this whole time?
Yeah, she's been active this whole time.
According to medical staff, Trevizo was still bleeding a lot after the birth and needed to go to a trauma center where she could see an obstetrician. So she ended up being flown via a helicopter to another facility. Detectives started to put together what happened, and their interviews with hospital personnel all had something in common: their horrified reaction to the scene in the bathroom once Trevizo left.
All I saw was like blood everywhere, like on the walls, on the toilet. It just looked like a horror film.
When I went in there, it was a gory, bloody massacre mess.
Could you describe it if possible?
Yeah, there was blood everywhere.
There was quite a bit of blood in there.
So let's go back to around 1 o'clock in the morning, January 27th, 2023. Trevizo arrives at the emergency room with her mom, complaining of back pain. The nurses started her on some pain medication and ran some basic tests on her urine and blood. And that's when they discovered the 19-year-old was pregnant. But before they could confront Trevizo with that news, she said she had to go to the bathroom, so she quickly went down the hallway. Now take a listen to what multiple nurses and the custodian who was sent to clean up the restroom say happened next.
She started feeling a little better, and then she said she needed to go have a bowel movement, and that's kind of when the whole thing happened.
So what did you do after that? So when she went to do the bowel movement, where were you at?
Initially, I was at the nurse's station, and then at some point I went and kind of checked on her, knocked on the door, seen if she needed anything. She denied. She said she didn't need anything.
Did you hear anything?
I didn't hear anything.
Flush, toilet flush?
Yes, after a while I started hearing, so I probably checked on her 2 to 3 times, I'm not exactly sure. And then I just kept hearing paper towel dispenser. And flushing and like the water running. And I knocked again, did she need anything? Denied anything. And then eventually it got to a point where I said, you need to come out. And I asked the clerk to get the key to unlock the door, because obviously she locked the door to go to the restroom. And whenever we finally had the key to unlock it, she opened it and just kind of walked out.
Did she say anything at that point?
She didn't say anything. She was just looking kind of straight past me and went back to the room.
Did you look into the restroom?
I did.
Yeah. What did you see?
Went into the restroom and I saw a large amount of blood.
Where
and
at?
It was on the floor. It appeared to, like, she had tried to wipe it up in places. It was kind of on the back wall behind the commode, the toilet. And so I said, you okay? What happened? And she said, I'm on my period, she said. And she walked out. And then I went in, because at this point we had already received the positive pregnancy lab test.
When was that?
I couldn't tell you the exact time, but I know prior to that, we got a positive pregnancy test on her.
Okay, prior to the bowel movement, did you tell her that y'all got a positive?
No, the doc hadn't been in there to tell her yet.
Okay, so, okay.
Yeah, so went in there and I did look into the trash can at that time to see if there had been anything tossed, but the liner was fresh and completely empty. I didn't pick up the can, obviously I would have known, but I just looked in the can and there was nothing in there. It was a fresh liner.
So there's no trash in the
there was
liner?
nothing in there, yeah.
Do you know if they keep fresh liners? Because I know some places they put
Yeah, there's usually
new
like a
liners
roll.
in the bottom of the
Yeah.
trash can, and then they put the liner in.
Exactly.
Take the trash out.
Right, that way when they change it, they can just put a fresh one in. So yeah, there's usually a roll or a bunch of extra liners at the bottom of the trash can.
So you said there was blood on the floor, and it looked like some parts of it looked like it had been.
Right, it looked like it had been wiped up.
Well, and you said on the wall. Was there any on the toilet?
I think there might have been some at the bottom of the toilet. I don't remember if there was some like on the actual scene.
Okay.
Yeah, because when she ran to the bathroom, I did see her pass me. Because I remember I told the girls, because she had her hand on her crotch and one on her butt, and she was running to the bathroom, and I was like, damn, I guess we gotta go. And because one of the lab tech, Erica, was sitting there and we were talking, and she was like, dang. She was like, really? And that's when we noticed she was in there for quite some time. So I don't know if maybe the baby was already coming out and she just ran to the bathroom as fast as she could, or what. Like a few more flushes had gone by, and then that's when Chris was like, I don't know, because I told him, what if she's having a miscarriage in there and, flushing stuff down the toilet. So he knocked on the door and he's like, you gotta unlock this door. And then she wouldn't reply, and he's like, if you don't reply, he goes, and then that's when she heard him call for me. And he was like, Laura, you got the spare key to this bathroom? And I was like, yeah. Because we keep like a ring of keys by the desk where I sit. So I went and I got the key, and just as we were getting ready to open the door, she opened it, and all I saw was like blood everywhere, like on the walls, on the toilet. It just looked like a horror film.
And you said where it is also on the floor too?
Yes.
Okay.
And then
Now, was it covering the floor, or was it like splotches?
you could tell she was wiping it up with paper towels because it was like smeared.
Okay.
I noticed she had bloody footprints that she was leaving going back to the room that we had put her in. So I had called housekeeping, which was Leela, and I was like, hey Leela, I'm sorry to bother you. I said, but I think this patient just had a miscarriage in our bathroom and she left like a mess. If you could come and clean it. And she said, okay.
So when I went in there, it was a gory, bloody massacre mess.
Could you describe it if possible?
Yeah, there was blood everywhere. There was blood on the floor, on the wall.
Do you remember which wall?
The one behind the toilet, and then the one on the side right here. There's the one where the toilet sits, back of that.
Yeah.
And then on the side.
Where the call button is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, it was all over the place. All over the floor, because even when I was going into the bathroom, there was blood on the coming out of the bathroom on the floor.
Okay.
So it was everywhere.
Okay.
So there's blood coming out of the bathroom? Do you know how far it went? Okay.
I think they were the person that was in there, her footsteps. And so I started getting the trash out, and then when I did that, I seen that there was a baby in there. And that's when I freaked out, and I called Lori and HT, or the nurses up front. And because there was a baby in the trash.
When I talked to her that night, she said she cleaned the blood first, then went to...
Yeah, and I usually, when there's like one or two things in the wastebasket, I usually pick it up and take it out, but I didn't that night. And then, like, I've been kicking myself on this because I feel like, if I would have just taken it out, I would have seen it.
Well, no one prepares for that type of thing, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Most people don't act like that, so don't blame yourself for it.
Yeah.
Because it's not a natural thing to do.
It's just hard because I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, and I've dealt with death before, but never like this.
Right.
It was horrible.
I know that he came to me and said there was some issues because they had ran a pregnancy test on her and they found out she was pregnant. and she was adamant. The mother was in the room with her and was adamant and denying to.
Did you see that? Or did it was?
No, Chris came to me and told me this was what was going on because we were having an issue.
Okay.
And he was worried about the mother, the dynamics between the mother and the daughter, because the daughter was completely denying she was pregnant, and the mother was relatively upset about that she was pregnant. And then I told Lori, call housekeeping, they got to come clean this up. Which time she called Leela, who was on call for housekeeping. Then I was just sitting there, and then the next thing, Lori comes and goes, HT, oh my God, you better come to the bathroom. I go in the bathroom, and she goes, something's in the trash can. I'm like, I looked in there, there's a clean liner. I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, pick it up. I picked it up, I could feel the weight. I knew then we had a serious problem. I just grabbed the trash can and went right across the hall, and there's trauma 2. The liner was pulled out, but there was another trash bag in there in the bottom, but it was all it was rolled up. So I had to tear it apart. And then, of course, I saw the baby in there. So I pulled the baby out, got him on the bed, checked for signs of life. There was absolutely no life whatsoever. I immediately came out of there after I did that, went into the room where she was performing the vaginal exam, and I immediately told her, you have to come out now. And she came out, and we went into trauma 2, and she reassessed the baby. At that time, between me and Chris and her, we determined, there was no reason for us to begin any life saving. The baby was completely gone.
She essentially was scared. She was worried that she was going to get in trouble. She did have the back and forth with her mother that was just about they had said, the mom was upset because she had had sex and hadn't told her. So they were going back and forth on that, and then she was just denying it, which was a little wasn't really deniable at that point in time.
Right.
So the patient was denying having sex at this point to her mom.
Yeah, she was trying to state that she was still a virgin.
After she came in from the bathroom and all the blood and all that. Okay.
So did the pelvic, and then I think shortly after that the mom was in the waiting room after that. And then she was just worried. She was asking me what was going to happen. I told her obviously I did not know.
Is this when you found out she was worried about getting in trouble? Did she tell you anything
She didn't say anything about what had happened.
Mm-hmm.
She was just essentially worried that she was just going to get in trouble.
So that's what I mean. Were those the questions she was asking?
Mm-hmm. What's going to happen to me? That kind of thing.
Did she ever ask about the baby?
No.
Not once.
Is there anything we haven't asked you think we should know?
I'm just going to tell you this. I've never, ever seen a reaction like that girl. I don't even know what to say about it. There was zero emotion. I don't even know what to say. I've never seen anything like it. I've seen women that are only married, or not married, but pregnant for 6 weeks, and they lose that baby, and they're a mess. You know what I mean? That girl went into that bathroom, made no sounds at all, and the baby came out of her. And I don't even know how she functioned that way to do what she did and with no emotion. I've never seen anything like it.
Trevizo was arrested months later on May 10th at her home after the Office of the Medical Examiner released a report indicating the baby's death was a homicide. She was booked into jail and later released on a $100,000 bond to finish the school year and attend graduation. Everything seemed to be on track for Trevizo to go to trial, but her defense team argued that her statements from her hospital bed that were caught on body camera shouldn't be heard at trial because they were protected under doctor-patient privilege, and Trevizo at that point had not been read her Miranda rights. The prosecutor's office appealed to the state Supreme Court, and the 5-judge panel heard oral arguments on Thursday this week and questioned the attorney's reasoning on both sides. The state made arguments first, followed by the defense, then a rebuttal from the state.
The reason why the state believes there's no interrogation here, Your Honor, is when you look at the video, just so we're all starting from a baseline, the police do not ask her any questions at all. The police do at one point ask the mother, did she have a driver's license? They hand that over. Of course, they're going to run everyone for warrant. It's like showing up at a car accident scene. But as I cited in the briefs, we all are familiar with cases that say asking for a driver's license name, and that's procedural. That doesn't count as interrogation. So then the question would be, did the police say anything that would be, as Ines says, reasonably likely to elicit?
Well, it's not saying it can be actions as well. And that's what I want to focus on is actions, because I get that the police didn't say anything, they didn't ask questions. But here my concern is that if we only review the video and that's out of context to what the police have been told prior to going into the room. There's been a report. They've heard from the nurse, probably things maybe the nurse shouldn't have told them. And then they're invited to go in. And so there's action as a result of that that's different than like they just pop their head in, or if the report had just been made without healthcare folks tying the report to this young lady. That might be different if they were just going room to room saying we'd like everybody's name and information. But here they had this body of knowledge before they walk in the room, and that's what troubles me in this case.
I don't see a problem with that because, I mean, generally when the police arrive at a scene, they're going to want to talk to the reporting party. Now, granted, the doctor, whoever it was that called the police, the reporting party here is a little ambiguous. It's essentially the medical staff, the hospital. It's not like a neighbor calling the police on a loud party next door, but the police naturally are going to want to talk to the doctor, the nurse, get a little bit of information before they barge in there. I think the police acted very reasonably here. They talked to the doctor, they talked to the nurse, and I think the police are smart enough to realize that just because this charge nurse is telling them this, that, and the other, that's just for the police officer's information. There's no legal bar to the police going into the exam room. Now, granted, I admit it. Had the doctor said, look, I need to talk to her. I don't want you in there yet. Can you hold on while I talk to her? I think the police, you can tell from the video, they were very deferential to the doctor. One thing I wanted to point out, because I believe now is a really good time to say that, there's a lot in the answer brief that suggests that the police presence there caused a delay or hinder treatment of some kind, or even delayed possibly her being flown to Roswell. I want to be very clear. There is absolutely zero evidence in the record that would support any fact finder in finding that any medical procedure or care was hindered or delayed, or that they even had anything to do with the helicopter arriving. So what I would say is, the best answer I have is I don't believe there was a medical reason for the police to be in there, but clearly the doctor did not say, I want to talk to her in private. I don't want you in there yet. I know we called the police, we called you, but please don't go in there. I need to talk to her. Do they have a legal reason to be in there? Yes. Now, might it have been
What's the legal reason?
Well, they're investigating this, and they probably want to, at some point.
Watching her get a pelvic exam, is that investigation?
Well, later on in the video, when there is a point in the video when the nurse says, will you two please step out? And the police do. They step out of the hallway because there was probably a medical. Was
that hindering their investigation? Asking them to leave?
No, it wasn't hindering at all. And the police were very polite. They went out in the hallway. Another thing I wanted to mention too, and again, I think some of this is more clear when you sort of watch the video from beginning to end. There's a point in the video pretty much exactly at 3 o'clock where you see the police are out in the hallway and they say to the nurse, they say, well, we don't really want to go in there and cause her more stress. She's dealing with a lot. And at that point, at 3 o'clock, you see the sergeant and the other officer go back into the room when they've clearly been out in the hallway. And the sergeant says, look, we're going to continue waiting out in the hallway. We don't want to add to your stress. We know this is stressful. And the sergeant even explains, we can't have your mom in here right now. We're waiting for the detective. You are 19 years old, but we're going to keep waiting in the hallway. We don't want to add to your stress. I know at answer brief, page 9, it certainly seemed to be making the claim that the police were in their room the entire time for that 2 hours or 2.5 hours, and that's just not true.
It's the ramifications of this case that are extraordinary for Ms. Trevizo and for every vulnerable patient in New Mexico, and for the state's commitment to safe, confidential reproductive health care. And even more importantly, to maintaining the line that separates medical care from police investigations. Physicians and medical personnel take on the role of caregiver. Police take on the role of investigator. If we accept the state's position in this case, that line completely disappears. And it's to the detriment of New Mexico patients at their most vulnerable moment. Police are in the emergency department every single day. This is something real live doctors have to navigate every single day. And the people who are there are inherently at their most vulnerable moment. There are guidelines here. The state's position is essentially there is no limit. We heard counsel talk a lot about that video. In that video, we see Alexee Trevizo on the bed, hemorrhaging in a hospital gown. Those are the circumstantial ideas, right, that we talked about earlier, that your honors talked about earlier, in terms of circumstantial custody, that she's not free to leave. But that's not what puts her in custody for Miranda purposes. I mean, that's part of the coercive environment that they're exploiting, that they're taking advantage of here. But the reason she's in custody is because she has 4 authority figures acting in concert, only one of whom she's ever seen before. That's the doctor, the charge nurse. And as if you've all seen the video, he's a large man who aligned himself very strongly with police. These 3 men walk into the room and they're physically blocking the door. The operative question for the court is, would a reasonable 19-year-old high school girl in that situation feel free to leave? And the answer is no, even if she wasn't hemorrhaging, even if she wasn't hooked up to an IV, even if she hadn't just experienced the first vaginal exam of her entire life and the precipitous labor and delivery of what the defense posits was a stillborn in the bathroom. The police should absolutely not have been in the patient care room, nor should Dr. Vasquez have instructed her entire ED staff not to interact with Ms. Trevizo except for in the presence of law enforcement.
Even if you give the defendant the benefit of the doubt that she did not know she was pregnant, immediately upon giving birth, the natural thing you would think anybody would do is, help, help, I just had a baby, help, help, I need help. She did not tell anybody for 30 minutes. It was 30 minutes later that the cleaning lady found the baby, and obviously another 5-10 minutes till the police showed up. I think one can make a good argument that she did not even from the beginning avail herself of the physician-patient privilege. State v. Roper, 1996 NMCA 73, paragraph 6, said the privilege is designed to encourage patients to make complete disclosures of symptoms. I would argue that if you're hiding a material fact from the doctor that you just gave birth to a baby, you're not asking for help, arguably you're not even availing yourself for a privilege. Now I understand after the fact, now that she's caught and she's in trouble, she wants to say my privilege was violated. But State v. Strouts, 2015 NMSC 9, paragraph 44, states expressly, privileges often have limits, particularly where there are conflicting interests that may outweigh the interest of confidentiality. And it's interesting that Strouts notes in paragraphs 29 to 31 that New Mexico in 1973 became one of the earliest states in the country to impose a mandatory reporting duty on all persons. So New Mexico has a rich history of protecting children and babies. And the other one more thing I wanted to note is it's also interesting that some of this privacy and privilege is a little bit pick and choose what serves me. There was a lot of emphasis in the answer brief about privacy, and they didn't respect her privacy. And yet there's something in the answer brief where they say, well, the hospital let her go to the bathroom unattended. Well, she's 19 years old. It's ludicrous, almost incredible to me that they expected the doctor to go into the bathroom or a nurse to go into the bathroom and stand over her to make sure she didn't do anything. So there's got to be some treatment of, you're 19 years old, you're a responsible adult. I think that's been a little lacking here in terms of the defendant certainly has rights, she's on trial, but there has to be something said for the baby's rights too.
The judges will now consider whether Trevizo's own statements can be used in her trial, and they say they'll release their findings at a later date. In the meantime, Trevizo is suing the hospital for her baby's wrongful death, saying that hospital staff gave her medications that could have impacted her pregnancy even after the positive pregnancy test. We'll, of course, continue to follow this case as it develops, but that will do it for On the Case, presented by Law&Crime. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify. I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.